Thank you, everyone. I'm going to try a very short exercise of realpolitik. I have 5 minutes, right? So it's a long story from a boy in the late 60s in South America reading Tolstoy and Dostoevsky in Spanish and English translations to now being here addressing you all. So my responsibility is enormous, of course. Well, I am a nomad, essentially. I live between three continents most of my life. North and South America, Europe, and Asia. So my point of view is a circular point of view, and I am a big fan of crossroads and building bridges, which is something that those of us who try to exercise our certain influence in media should do, in fact, build bridges, right? What is starting here today, I see it as a mix of a soft power war, an information war, and cultural war. And Russia has to be on the offensive. It's over for Russia to be on the defensive, especially on the defensive coming from people with very, very shallow values and low IQ for that matter. We can even despise them because they are so shallow, which are the people who created the situation, the geopolitical situation we are living now. I'm referring specifically to the so-called Straussian neocons in the US. So it's a mix of followers of Leo Strauss, of course, the original neocons that brought us so many wars, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya and Syria, and many others, not to mention Obama's hidden invisible wars, but also what we call the neoliberal cons, which is this gang that is empowering Washington now. These people are extremely mediocre. I happen to know some of them. Don't think that Tony Blinken is capable of strategizing how to go to the next restaurant at night. He's not very bright. And I heard this from people who are very bright and are hidden in Washington. They say, he's a nice boy, dismissing him. The problem is these people, like all of you who read Cy Hirsch's investigative journalism piece about the bombing of Nord Stream 1 and 2, he refers to these people dismissively as well. Cy has over 50 years of investigative journalism. All of us who practice journalism, we have him as one of our icons. So this is how you should practice investigative journalism. You have hidden sources, you have sources that you can reveal, you have sources that you cannot reveal, but when you put together a story and you try to explain geopolitically what's going on, you read from A to Z and you say, oh, this all makes sense. And Cyber's story made so much sense that the official response by the Americans, it took them 6 months, in fact, to organize this response, is a boat with 5 clowns and a woman with a bunch of explosives. So this does not even qualify as a bad Netflix script, as you all know better than I do, right? The problem is, these are the people who are setting the narrative. Why? They control the lingua franca, the operating system of the world, which is what I'm speaking now, the English language. They control the currency. That's why Eurasian Economic Union, BRICS Plus, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, everybody, you need to sit down on the same table and design a currency or a basket of currencies based on gold and commodities to bypass the dollar. If you have the hegemonic power controlling the operating system and the currency, you're not going anywhere. So of course, this is a long-term project for all of us here and beyond, right? And they control soft power. because they control the information flow in the world and the lingua franca and the social networks, which were all born in the US. They can invent any narrative, make up anything, fake news or semi-fake news or outright lying, and it's going to be disseminated all over the world, including inside Russia, by the Russian fifth, sixth, seventh, or eighth column of liberals, neoliberals, post-liberals, ultra-liberals inside Russia. Not to mention in China, they also exist in China as well. They, of course, in India, all over the place, in Pakistan, even in Iran, so all across Eurasia. So how do we fight these people? It's extremely complicated because the counteroffensive has to be on their own terms, but at the same time unmasking them. That's why the counteroffensive has to be mostly in English, otherwise you are lost in translation. If you do it in Russian, in Farsi, in Urdu, in Hindi, you're going to be lost in translation. So you have to turn this against them as well. Explaining the Russian ethos, civilization, spirituality to the rest of the world in terms of the global south is not hard, because the appeal over the centuries of everything that Russian civilization did, it's so strong that is immediately recognized in Latin America, in Africa, in Southeast Asia. The more complicated thing is to turn the geopolitical narrative upside down. So this is where what's starting here today may be able to do. If there is a mix of turning geopolitical narrative upside down and at the same time showing spirituality, culture, the power of the Russian soul to the rest of the world. This can be accomplished. And then we'll have to study strategies to do it. But we have the main goal ahead of us already. So looking at the situation right now, from a realpolitik point of view, we could say we are, as Mr. Lavrov recognized brilliantly, and Mrs. Zakharova all the time, we are in the middle of a hybrid war. And the hybrid war is not only against Russia, it's against the ultimate nightmare of the ruling classes, which are not only American, they are Atlanticists. The strategic partnership between Russia and China, which is getting stronger literally by the minute. And next week, we're going to have President Xi Jinping coming here to meet President Putin, and this is going to be a breakthrough moment, because now they both know Russia and China, not only Russia and China as geopolitical entities, but Russia and China civilizations are under attack by these lowly crowd, basically messengers, because the people who run the show, as you all know, I don't have to explain it, it's not George Soros. It's not the Bilderberg. It's not that guy who cannot read the teleprompter in the White House. It's not Blinken, Sullivan, and Lula. These are the people who don't show up. These are the people behind that come up with Great Reset, you know, who we're coming to Davos. And these things are not decided at Davos or in Brussels. They are decided in private meetings in the Atlanticist sphere, which very few people have access to, because they are very secluded. It's a matter of a few families and people who control financial assets all over the world. They never show up. They are not going to have a bling bling weekend in Dubai. It doesn't work like that. It's very secretive. And this is not a conspiracy theory. This is how these big decisions are made. And in terms of Russia, the big decision was made, we can say 100 years ago. Russia has to be dismembered. There's going to be one regime change after another, which is what's happening now, an attempt of regime change in Russia. And we have to take over all those massive natural resources because they don't deserve it. This is ours. This is the way they think. So you can imagine the weight of the task of a movement like this one, how to go against all that. But Okay, let's try to be Chinese about that. I lived in Asia for almost 30 years. So the best thing that I learned from Asia is what the Tao teaches us, equilibrium. So if we find our equilibrium in terms of counteracting everything that they throw against not only Russia, China, but the rest of the global south, because they consider the global south as a whole, as a minor player, their playground. Of course, the jungle. So we are all part of the jungle. So what do tigers in the jungle do? They bite back when they're provoked. Okay, so now it's our time to bite back. And from now on, we can start discussing different strategies to bite back. And trust me, they're going to be even more terrified than they are now. Thank you.